All right, we'll call the meeting to order. It's 3:32. Hi, welcome
Hey.
back. All right, no one from the public is here, so we'll move on to the consideration of the minutes from last meeting.
Motion to approve.
We have a second.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
I wasn't here, so I'll technically abstain.
Sounds good.
Everyone else was not.
Making it hard on me, Dominic. Okay, 6-0, 1 abstention, and 1 absent.
Sorry. I guess you can switch me to yay if that's more. I figure it's more ethical not to like.
All right, so moving on to discussion of priorities for next year's public art installations.
Yeah, so first of all, I want to say thank you, everybody, for filling out that survey, and let me apologize for it not working the way I had intended initially. Several of you realized that it only let you rank your top, I think it was 5 locations without letting any others be counted in that mix. So I changed something in the SurveyMonkey survey, and then we were able to get a full ranking of all of those locations that we had. So thanks for putting up with that. I passed out the list in order of ranking, and you'll see that the bus stop shelter art on glass panels came out with the highest ranking. Oops. So let's see here. And I wanted to show you on this slide, it shows up on everybody's screens, right? The slide here. SurveyMonkey weights the answers that you give each answer, and I just wanted to show you a sample of this. I don't know if I can explain it scientifically, but here you can see in the first in the winner here with bus stop shelter art glass, one person had ranked it the lowest priority, 2 low, 1 moderate, 1 high, 3 and 3 highest, for a total of 8. So SurveyMonkey then just ranks. It puts it through the sieve and comes out with this weighted ranking of 4.4. And I'm not going to show you all of the ones that come out, but I did want to show you how SurveyMonkey does it to the best of how I can explain it. Then we have on the right any comments that were put in with each of those as well. And Steve and I didn't have a chance to talk ahead of this meeting, but at our last meeting, we talked about coming up with a short list that we would present to the public. And I guess I would leave it to your discussion to figure out how many of those you'd like to present, and if, the top X number in this spreadsheet are the ones you want to do, or are there others you want to strike, or some that, oops, we forgot. So I guess that's how I'll preface the discussion that you can carry on. I was looking for the information that Dominic had sent several months ago about the Des Moines, I think it was the Des Moines program that, was that right? Did the bus stop panels, do you recall? You don't have to look it up now or anything, but.
I know Nebraska just did something with bus stop art too. They announced a big program, so I can find it.
Okay, that'd be great. I was thinking that one might be hard to articulate to the public. So what would be helpful is if we had some kind of image or description along with the locations or the, a bus stop shelter art example for each that you decide to present to the public.
I'll just make I guess this was to violate my own anonymity, but my other comment at the bottom, but I don't know if it's something we want to consider. In the past survey we got a lot of strong feedback about like keeping natural parks natural, whatever natural means. So not that I'm like opposed to moving forward in that direction, but I would just expect that we might not get a lot of positive public feedback if that was the route we chose. So maybe just keep prior feedback in mind.
And so are there parks that are more natural than others? It seems like, in a way, there's a natural area in every park to some extent.
I think it was primarily Hickory Hill. We got a lot of pushback about the idea of something at Hickory Hill.
I feel like Waterworks got, in that previous discussions of keeping areas natural areas natural, the Waterworks came up as well.
I wonder because doesn't Waterworks have a, Julie's not here, but a master plan or something that includes because it was on the list of sculpture parks?
Well, I remember that that got mentioned, and I guess it was by Julie. My personal concerns with that would be it's not on a bus stop, and I do think there's
remote.
real value in if there is a sculpture park, people being able to access that a bit more easily. But then I'm also like, ooh, it's near the water, it could flood, and like, It makes me nervous, that's all.
With the Riverside
Yeah.
one, or riverfront crossings.
The Waterworks, yeah. But then that's also a concern at,
Yeah.
riverfront crossings as well, depending.
I would also wonder about keeping the natural areas natural. If, like at most parks, there's some sort of structure already in place, like if it's located kind of near the trail and structure already, that it would make more sense, and it's a little more visible from more people would see it probably when it's in a position like that next to a park structure than if it's like really kind of buried in a trail somewhere. But I don't know. I don't remember how many. I remember there was one particular committee member who was very adamant about that. I don't remember how much public feedback we got, though. There was more than just her, though.
The Hickory Hill thing came out in when we whatever last survey
we did for the
that's where a lot of
master
the
plan.
Hickory Hill.
Or-
'Cause I think we had listed that as a potential site.
Yeah,
And that's where that feedback came from. Sorry, that's where that feedback came from.
that makes sense. I remember that.
I also just feel like with the housing controversy over, would the housing development sort of encroach onto the park? So all of that is to say, it feels like Hickory Hill is like the hot place where nobody wants anything, which is fine.
Yeah.
What's the difference on the different sheets? I'm a little confused. First, second, and third page.
Well, this list is sorted on the weighted score that you see, that column in the top of the first page. So those numbers are actually the score that each of the locations that you judged got, along with comments on each of those. So I sorted them from the order they were on in the survey to the order they ended up after scoring.
And then what is the difference on page 2? It's unweighted?
Huh. Oh, my goodness. Okay,
mean-
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, the bus stops are at the top, but then there's a different,
Well, that's some kind of print
It's
it
just,
looks like a lot of things are missing.
error.
is it
Oh,
just
you
that
know
the
what?
bus
Just the
stop
comments?
repeats?
You know what I think it is? I think it was selected as the line to repeat across the top of a subsequent page,
Okay,
because it appears on the
else is-
last one. You can
Gotcha.
choose, that's why it doesn't have the words location, weighted score, and comments across the top of each page. It has
Bus stop.
bus stop shelter on art panels across the
But
top.
everything else lines up accurately.
Right, nothing's been eliminated
Okay.
because
just
of
ignore
that.
bus
Good
stop.
catch, though.
Do we want to open it up just for general comment about, different typologies or types of places that the art could go? I mean, are we seeing a pattern that parks or trails or along more automobile-oriented ones like the roads and roundabouts.
Yeah.
Pedmal was at the very bottom.
Yep.
I think the thing that stands out, I guess, Court Hill Park has like a trail and a bus stop and is a neighborhood park, and it's second right to bus stop shelter. So it seems like public transport accessibility was a high priority for people,
Yeah.
which I would echo
I was
as a
also
personal.
thinking about that as a filter when I was rating things. Yeah.
I personally sort of worry about anything in a roundabout. Just again, I don't like the idea of art becoming ornament, yard ornament, but I also sort of like, I personally don't do well driving in roundabouts as a driver. So I'm kind of like, I don't know if anything wants to be in there to distract, but maybe that's my own personal, I might hit something.
I think that was a really good comment.
But like, I really do, I sort of fear for like personal safety kind of issues. But then again, like the idea for me is, you know, making sure that where we put public art are in spaces where people can go up to the art, they can look at it in the round if possible, if it is sculpture. Sorry, I'm very biased with sculpture. I want sculpture now. But, you know, to be able to have a meaningful interaction with that piece of art. So, like,
Yeah.
I as an art historian, I can't not have that. So, that was my only sort of really, like, insistent point with my comments on this. I feel. Oh, and I did have a question for Julie. With the Public Works building, it sounds like it would go on like the nice swanky new building, or would it go on the brick office structure or the Quonset huts that seem to be on that whole property?
I think
That
it
up
would
for
go along the,
grabs.
go along the Gilbert Street frontage.
Okay,
So in the landscape space that's between the building and the sidewalk.
okay, because I wasn't sure, because I'm like, that's a swanky new building. It doesn't need anything.
Yeah,
And I'm like, maybe the Quonset huts do, you know?
Yeah, and then eventually those will go away. But in some of the master plan concepts, it had public art in that space that
Okay.
was, you know, basically in the green space along the frontage of the building.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, I have a question for you, Ron. I know you have commented before on like roundabout intersection locations, like in terms of like right of way and safety perspectives, if like you would just take that off the table, or if you think it would be a good idea to pursue, because that's in like the top 10 locations.
I think for us, one of the things that would be nice about having art in, it takes away some of the maintenance issues that are there with the roundabouts themselves. You know, so when if you go south on Sycamore Street, you know, those roundabouts are all completely landscaped out. And yes, they're very pretty, but they're very maintenance intensive. So I think the idea was to insert a piece of public art in the interior so that it would take away some of the maintenance that's there as far as and safety for the public workers, so they're not out there in the middle trying to maintain something. But I understand the concern with it, the accessibility piece of it too, because clearly if something's there, people are going to want to touch it and feel it in some of those aspects of it. So
I'm just like, can giant round balls just go in there? Like, it's just something giant and simple.
Sure.
It's a simple shape.
yeah.
Okay. Like, versus needing to get to, like, I got to get in there and see it.
The other thing about roundabouts, and I'm going to speak like an engineer, which I'm not, but having something that keeps it so you can't see over the top helps encourage people to drive around. You know, that's part of why they're kind of bowled up. Am I correct on that? That's why we tend to do landscaping or something in them, but public art would be much easier for us to take care of if we had the right thing in there.
I wanted to make a comment on the Mercer Park one that also ranked high. Somebody had commented that it might compete with a sculpture pad that's already there. we could argue that those are rotating or temporary sculptures there, and that there might be another location for a permanent piece.
How many do we need to pick? 10? We're going to do top 10?
Up for discussion, but yeah. Jeremy or Anita, do you guys have any thoughts?
I mean, it didn't score as high, but I'm still in favor of the art on school campuses. I just think there's potential of a lot of people seeing them and just the educational benefit and
I think the question on both of those campus locations was good. Would either of those organizations partner up with us on that? And that is something we could explore.
Has there been any discussion ever of public art on school district campuses?
That I know of.
That I'm aware of, at least not in partnership with the city. They may have had their own conversations, I'm guessing, but I don't know what those would have been.
There were several bookmarks that were purchased by schools and placed on those locations, but they purchased them, or their PTOs did.
Yeah.
So then I wonder, at least with the school district, if this were something we wanted to pursue, if that would just be like, a DPO, a meeting with either the DPO or someone from that organization, the district-wide parent organization. You have a child and or a young adult, young
adults,
a high schooler type.
Yeah, ish. It's a few years, but yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't remember ever having a discussion about that, and I wasn't involved in parent-teacher.
But that would be the place, or would it be? Well, I guess,
I mean, I think the discussion would be with the school district themselves. I mean, I think you're going to talk to the facilities manager, and obviously the parent organizations have some control, but really it's going to be the facility side of it that's going to manage it.
I mean, does the city, in the eyes of like Iowa City, is that private,
Yeah.
that's my question also is like, what if parents don't like it and start complaining about it?
Right.
I feel like since they have a lot of money capabilities, they'll probably filter beforehand, but
There was one park, I don't remember the name of it, but it was right behind a school on, it was sort of this.
Pheasant Hill, the one where
It was like, it was kind of a dead end into a roundabout. I'd never been to it before, and then it was right behind an elementary school. I kind of liked that one because it was in a neighborhood that seemed kind of underserved by art, but it was also right next to the elementary school, and it's a public park. It seemed like it kind of
Isn't that Pheasant Hill, Julie?
did.
No,
Mosaic
it wouldn't be Pheasant
bench
Hill.
that broke apart?
No, that's not near an elementary school.
Oh, okay.
Pheasant Hill. And we just replaced the bench with one of the big wooden ones, the reclaimed urban lumber. You may have seen it back at the Public Works Open House, but that's there in that place where the mosaic bench was. I'm trying to.
That might be. That
Oh,
might have been,
Fair
yeah.
Meadows, yeah.
Where is that?
That ranked high.
Yeah.
Fair Meadows.
I'm not talking to the microphone.
Lakeside.
Yeah, that was
Oh, okay.
at sixth place.
So that one has mosaic posts close to it on the trail. It was a prior.
South side of,
Yeah, on the south side.
for the Sycamore
Um,
Greenway.
And it's a pretty busy park anymore since we just redid the playground. I mean, busy in a lot of structures. There's kids' playground, the water features, the spray pad, shelter, restroom. There's a lot going on there too, so I don't know.
Does it seem like too much going on to place public art to you? Or?
It does seem like it's kind of already pretty busy unless it was some other, I'm thinking only sculpture. If it was something else that fit in better with the site, maybe.
There is a bus stop at the corner of Lakeside and Miami. So like the southeast corner of the park, there's a bus stop.
That would
across the
actually
street.
probably be a good spot there. You know, it's a little farther away from all the other busyness stuff that's happening.
It's a good thought.
So a bus stop location, you're suggesting near Fair Meadows Park.
Yeah, it's like the southeast corner. There's a bus stop. Or it might be across the street from Fair Meadows proper, but it's Lakeside and Miami Drive is the intersection where the bus stop is, according to Google Maps.
So sidewalks and trails near benches scored really high, but it's not very specific. So
Yeah.
it feels like, I'm just putting it out there, but should we try to limit the public survey to specific locations?
Yeah.
To kind of help us.
That would help.
Yeah.
I would agree with that because if that ranks really high, we don't know where they mean.
Right. Then we're kind of back to square one.
Are there, so I'm talking to this group here, are there trails that, or sidewalks that you know of yourselves that might be good locations? Or a good location to suggest to the public?
I mean, I think the one along the two trails that we've discussed for the sculpture pads still resonate with me, like the one that goes from Riverfront Crossings to Terry Trueblood, and then the Court Hill one, and those are kind of covered by this with having both. I guess Riverfront Crossings wasn't in here, but
There is one just
Terry
south
Trueblood was.
of Highway 6 near Riverfront Crossings, a new one that went in this year.
Yep. So maybe the trail, if we put a new trail location, since we're kind of using the Riverfront Crossings one as kind of our sculpture park and rotating sculpture pad locations, maybe we focus it to put in an option for a trail one, something along the Court Hill. Because there were a couple options, like there were, I think, 2 or 3 parks that were on that trail, as well as, I think just the trail itself was mentioned in this survey.
So would that be Court Hill Trail? Is that what it's called?
I think that's correct.
And that goes east and west, doesn't it?
It starts at, yeah. Yep.
Trails that goes behind First Avenue High V.
It is.
Yep.
The issue with a lot of that trail is we have very narrow
It's narrow.
right
yeah.
away, and there would be like one spot east of the creek, like the cemetery, you cross the creek, there's a memorial bench there, and that we have a little bump out there that is ours. There's not too many other places along there that would be wide enough for, unless you were actually in Court Hill Park.
Yeah, I think Court Hill Park seems like a decent one, and then also James Allen McPherson.
Yep, McPherson.
Maybe that's kind of one of the ends of the trail. Like that'd be kind of a nice marker, and you would also get some visibility from Muscatine. Is it right there? Yeah.
Now, we do have the fairly recent installation there by Kara Briggs Farmer, the medallion, I think it.
In the garden.
In the garden, or the
Yeah,
orchard.
in the garden.
Yeah. I don't know if it would make sense, but I was thinking more closer to Muscatine as sort of a marker of the entrance to the beginning of the trail or something. There's already a park mark, a new
There's
park
a
marker
park
there.
sign
but,
there. Yep.
I don't know.
This was my question for, I guess this kind of ties into the pre-existing trail art that I guess the Iowa City Animal Care and Adoption Center didn't make top 20, maybe?
No, I don't think so.
No. Oh. Well, it's at the top of the second page. But anyways, I was wondering like where, because that is visible from the Iowa River Crossing Trail. If you walk from Iowa Riverfront to Terry Trueblood, like you see that. So like depending on what location people were thinking about when that made the list that could be like at the animal center, but also like conceivably trail art in the sense that like it's very visible from that trail and is off of that trail.
Thank you for bringing that up, because I know I ranked that one low because I'm also not a person who uses the trail. I'm like, oh yeah, it's that building that I see randomly when I'm on those strange occasions when I'm driving on South Gilbert down by Terry Trueblood. So putting it that way might,
Yeah.
thank
look
you
at
for
that.
sort of putting that perspective
Yeah,
on it.
it's right
Dominic.
there.
Along
That's a good
the,
point.
but along the trail, we do have a sculpture pad just to the south of that. Yeah. So, I mean,
It feels almost more like it would belong to the trail than to the building if it was
Yeah.
back there.
There's some good space. I think I have it in a slide. Sorry, don't look. Is this it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So this here is the animal center in adoption, I think. Yeah. And you can see how close the trail gets. The new sculpture, I think, is about right here where I'm wiggling the cursor. Can you see it? I don't know what this yard area is used for, but that could be a location, I would think.
That's on the city property.
Must
it
be.
is. Yep.
And it would be visible by people who parked and used the animal center and people who are on the trail.
That's a nice thought. Feels like if we could start a list of
Yeah,
ones to
yeah.
include on the survey. That feels like a good one.
I mean, if that's an ideal trail site, that's why I had brought it up in response to the question about like what trails are we thinking of?
Yeah.
In the Highway 6 trail, you know, that goes pretty much from the Iowa River east, you know, which would along, you know, basically currently now it ends just past Pepperwood. You know, if there would be a location there, I know we're working with the neighborhood too down there, trying to identify something there, but I mean, there would be some space along the highway right away that may be a good focal point for that part of the neighborhood.
Is there any way you could pull up a map or something to show that?
Yeah.
That sounds great.
You know, so it's, yeah, south side of Highway 6, basically at the Iowa River, past Hills Bank, you know, past Carlos O'Kelly's, past the Hy-Vee,
Yep.
you know, and works its way all the way out to the Casey store there,
Yeah.
right?
Right. And that's where it crosses north to the
I mean, it stays, the trail itself stays on the south side of Highway 6,
Okay.
all the way along there. And eventually it'll extend all the way out to Hines Road.
Oh.
We're
This is an
adding a
opening.
piece from Hines Road back to First Avenue now, and then we'll, yeah.
That's cool.
Can't get my head around where that is.
Because right now the trail just kind of stops. Not
It snakes back towards Hollywood Boulevard, and then it goes on to Street there as it works its way towards Sycamore Street.
Show that close enough. I'm not
I mean, I
sure
really
why-
like the idea of. I know they, you know, they just created the SMID district and
SMID,
everything,
yeah.
and I really like the idea of helping bolster that effort to some identity. And
Like, what is this trail?
Wait, it's the one that runs directly along Highway
No, that's,
Yeah.
really?
Yep.
Okay.
It parallels Highway 6.
I guess that also, that would correspond with Pepperwood Plaza,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which Rang Tai and I commented on, like, what location is near there that, other than a parking lot. So
Right.
that could be a nice,
Yeah.
like,
I know I was sort of wondering about that too, just given that there is a lot of parking lot, but then if this is going to be the commercial hub, then how much do you want to,
Yeah.
where would you put something? Where would you, would that take away, in some sense, or would it be in the way of, commercial traffic that might develop there? So that could be a really nice workaround.
So I might be behind in the conversation, but are we talking, so far we have 3 trail locations, Highway 6, Animal Shelter, and Court Hill? Am I missing anything?
McPherson too as well.
McPherson?
Oh, yeah.
Sure. For the Highway 6 one, are you thinking like right in front of the Casey's, or where exactly were you imagining that could be good for?
You could probably pick anywhere in there. I mean,
Anywhere.
probably in the space between Keokuk and, towards Broadway, in that area,
Yeah.
along that frontage.
The Yale Taco Bell or Sherwin-Williams.
Is that all city property, like between the
It'd be
trail
State
and
highway.
State highway?
Right away. It's a combination, because there was some old street right away in there too.
Because, yeah, where Hollywood Boulevard dead ends, sort of pointing towards Casey, there's like a big green space. I don't know how big, but
Right.
there's a green space right there.
Right. I think might be private property.
Oh,
The pantry is there. They might be interested in having a piece of art in the food bank.
you're talking
We're talking about.
in Pepperwood Plaza, or what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have them.
Yeah, I mean, I think
There's the mural on the
the backside of that.
backside of that building, right?
What about doing some art there that provides some sort of shade? That's when I think of every time I'm there for an event. at
Oh, I
Pepperwood
know.
Plaza.
In that, I think
So big and hot. And is there an art
I totally
solution
agree.
that would
Yeah.
provide some
I think
shade for even a few picnic tables or something?
That would be great.
we should engage the South District neighborhood or SMID people about that. But I agree, that would be a huge benefit.
Then back to McPherson, I had forgotten that when we renamed the park a year and a half, 2 years ago, we did a public input process of the neighborhood out there. And we had several ideas for some kind of like reading nook type things that celebrated James McPherson as an author, but I think would qualify as art the way they were made. So that might be a really fun art project that ties into the
And that we
celebrating
receive-
that park.
That sounds awesome, yeah.
For the street corners, I was thinking about, like, I know we have a couple of those kiosks, but maybe something like a newspaper vending machine or something, kind of project where people can have their art featured in one of the. It's kind of like you take a piece of art, or the artist would fill it up with things, and you can take something.
Okay. Is there an example of that around that you've seen?
They had
Not
one
around
at the
here,
Cedar Rapids
but-
Museum of Art for a long time.
Okay.
And then, does Public Space 1 maybe have one now? I'm not sure. I've seen them at the Cedar Rapids
Oh,
Museum
like the
of Art.
vending machine ones?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, but this
They're
one-
like old
okay.
cigarette
Yeah,
machines.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're really cool.
yeah.
I'm just having this like, but you had to buy a $5 token in Cedar
Yeah.
Rapids Art Museum, so how would this work
Yeah,
for free? So I
yeah.
was like, wait a minute, whoa.
Do much cheaper tokens.
You know,
I think plus we're we're trying to think of ways to use a larger chunk of budget on a piece of art too. So I'm not sure what the cost of one of those is, but I'm guessing it's probably not even $10,000, but
Oh, we could buy 10 of them.
it's true.
Yeah, I mean, we should,
Fine.
we should just confirm, is the goal of this to identify one after the public process, or could the outcome be a couple priorities and split the budget between 2 or 3?
I mean, we could split the budget, but then we end up with far less significant projects and more administrative work to do. And I'm not saying I don't want to do that work, but one of the things we were trying to do is
Yeah.
go for a larger project and several matching grants as our kind of small ones.
Right. So with that in mind, I feel like, should we get more specific with the bus stop shelter art and like propose the one next to Fair Meadows Park, or would that be a bigger program where we open it up to multiple bus stops throughout the city and it's kind of more impactful that way?
Yeah, I think that's the way I understood that project when Dominic kind of brought it forward, was where we would have to get the list of bus stops and panels that would be okay for people to propose works for. And then that part of it is decided, people propose which bus stop they want to make a panel for, presumably one in their neighborhood. And each one of those is vetted and manufactured, and each one is $2,000 or $3,000 for a panel. So you could do several of those. All would have the same rules, and I guess that'd be similar to the vending machine type concept.
Well, I feel like that's the only. I feel like with those, yes, they're impactful in the neighborhood, but I'm also sort of thinking of like, how much can you do with a bus stop shelter? Just get like spatially. So then, I do like the idea of it would be a $2,000 to $3,000 outlay for multiple ones, and then you could. It feels much more systematic, I guess, and then, it could spread around, because I'm thinking like, oh, if, a neighborhood might have a lot of artists, but then what if you get, so then, I don't know. I just want to see them around town. That's all, I guess, is what I'm saying. Selfishly, I want this to be a thing on multiple lines all around town versus some giant $10,000 like bus stop extravaganza in one place. But
Yeah.
I love that idea.
Well, I think, at a prior meeting we had discussed, because I think after the South Neighborhood Bench project and witnessing that play out, maybe transforming the more nebulous neighborhood art grants into a bus stop program, since theoretically bus stops are all over the city, in all neighborhoods. I'm happy to, I guess, so it sounds like bus stop shelter art we want to pursue, but not as a major gateway project. I mean, which
Or I mean, it could be the focus of next year's budget, and it's a more wide scale thing.
So FY25 instead, you mean? Because right now we're talking about FY24, which
No,
starts.
I was saying either. I mean, if it's
Oh.
the highest priority, and let's make it happen.
Yeah.
But I was just saying that we could use the whole budget, what we were talking about, towards that one effort and hit, there could be 20 bus stops and it'd be this huge program and, impactful throughout the city.
yeah, because I was thinking it might be nice to be able to hit up at least one on each bus line. I mean, obviously some
Yeah.
bus lines get more, have more activity and they're more frequent than others, but that could be a really interesting rollout too. Like every line has a piece of bus stop art, shelter art.
It'd be fun to see a poster of all of them.
Mhm.
It'd be so cool.
To be cynical, it wouldn't be a mural, but it would still be something flat, potentially, that might kind of transition and.
There'd be no insurance. Because it's a digital file that the city would print onto overlay, so.
Oh, right.
I mean, I'm happy moving forward with the top 10. I think 10 is more than enough to solicit public feedback on. So that would be up through Hunters Run Park.
Yes, but I think we decided to take sidewalks and trails near benches out.
Oh, we took that out,
Just-
okay.
Yeah.
And did we add something from far below? Didn't we?
The school
The
district?
animal care and adoption center.
Yeah.
Is the one we added in.
And
Do we wanna-
James Allen McPherson wasn't on the top 10 either.
Oh, yeah.
But because, let me clarify though, because sidewalks and trails near benches was in the top, and because you did discuss 4 different locations on trails, either end of Court Hill, the animal shelter, and Highway 6 trail, could that replace the one sidewalks and trails with 4 trail option locations? So that your first thing was bus stop, shelter art. Second thing was Court Hill Park. Third, fourth, fifth, and sixth were those 4 trail locations. Seventh, Mercer Park. Eighth, Scott Park, if you agreed. Ninth, Fair Meadows, and 10th would be the American Legion Road and Scott Boulevard. I don't know if that's what you want to do.
Which one was that? That's the roundabout. That's Court High.
I would vote to add an 11th and include Pepperwood Plaza.
Yeah. I like that.
I was going to suggest that I'd rather see McPherson than Fair Meadows.
No, that's because I was wondering how much of that, because there is sort of an open green space along that park, or is that part of just school? And I haven't.
A lot of it is school.
Okay, yeah. Then that doesn't feel like, just on my recollection of the park, it doesn't leave a lot of space for. Or, so would you want to leave Pepperwood Plaza, or I thought sort of the workaround with that, or
With the
potential
trail.
workaround might have been the trail as a trail option, but
Oh, the Highway 6 trail option, one of those.
Okay, I need to make a new list. So bus stop shelter is staying on, right?
Yeah. Is Court Hill Park along the trail? I mean, I know it exists. The trail extends to there, but
It would be a trail location.
a trail
yeah.
location.
Okay,
Do you
so-
have somewhere in mind within the park that sculpture would go, or?
Depends on, a couple different locations would come to mind. I mean, the most visible from Court Street would be to have it near the bus shelter, or we get a lot of use of the basketball court that's a little bit further down there, and there will be a new shelter coming in
okay.
next year or so there as well. So that could be a spot, but over by the new playground is also super popular with a lot of people too. That's not as visible from any of the streets, but yeah.
Okay, some good options there.
Not visible from the street, really.
But not at all.
Not visible at all, but
It's
yeah.
not, but it's one of the busier trail
Oh,
use
yeah,
back.
absolutely. Yeah.
And interesting enough, the most popular part of the playground is a stack of stones left over from a railroad that are still there.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. So I just feel like this,
Jenny's like, I'm one of those.
Court Hill's got a
cop
lot of potential, like lots of
I hung there
space,
in the
lots of
80s.
options.
And then could you kind of go through the same options for Mercer?
Okay, so that was when I was not in the room.
Okay.
But Mercer, what we are redoing there now for next summer, it would be the baseball complex is getting a facelift, redo, as well as pickleball tennis courts. And so there's some opportunities there for something in those locations. The rotating sculpture out in front of the playground is very popular.
So we would call out somewhere near the baseball or pickleball courts as a location
Yeah.
in that case. Okay.
You already have I don't know that I would have that be the highest priority right now, because we already have the play sculpture, which was the bicycle rack that was downtown. We have the rotating sculpture there. I guess, or we could we're going to be redoing the entrance next spring into the building. There's a lot of the paving getting moved around there, and a new entrance. So we could do some public art right by the entrance to the building as well.
Does Bradford have a bus stop? I thought there was a, I don't know why. Maybe I'm
I don't know.
Don't remember off the top of my
okay.
That would be a great spot though if there was a bus shelter there.
I was like, maybe it's like Mercer Park doesn't have to go on the list per se, but the bus stop shelter would. You
I
know.
think there's a bus stop in front of Southeast Junior High on like Bradford and Williams.
So it's on the corner? Oh wait, it's down.
It's like right there.
Good eye. Is there a shelter?
I don't see any shelters along there.
There's two shelters, one by the playground. Oh, not bus shelters, park shelters.
I don't
sorry.
think so.
When we were looking at places for the public, or for the rotating sculpture pads, we also looked at like right to the west of the entry, like that lines up with Arthur Street, like kind of straight north of the building. Yeah.
Maybe that might have been what I was thinking, and for some reason, something in my brain somehow has an image of that having a bus stop. Sorry about that.
There's several things that could be happening around the grounds here and the building in the next couple of years. So I'm kind of hesitant to.
Should we strike that one from the list?
I think so at this point.
Not ready yet?
Not ready yet.
All right, and then talk through Scott Park, just going down the list.
Yeah, the one sculpture, the rotating sculpture that is popular, and I think there's plenty of room further along the trail, maybe in the prairie area.
That's right. There's that really big green space kind of behind some of this. Okay.
Yeah,
All right, that's
a large part of the mowed turf is flag football, frisbee, those kind of things. A lot of play on those areas, but the newer prairie area along Court Street and east of the creek, there's some options there that I think could fit in with the prairie area and be pretty.
That would be really fascinating to maybe see a piece.
It's the Browning.
The brown zone to the east.
This area right here is all prairie area now.
Oh,
That's okay. Okay.
Yeah,
well, that's cool.
it's gorgeous.
And then if like Wendy, if you were to move the cursor to the left, now that's where the flag football stuff
Yep.
happens. Okay. I've got it now.
That's a very active play field
Okay.
through there.
Thank you.
So then were you thinking sculpture could go kind of between those two along that trail that goes north?
Along the trailer closer to Court Street.
I think it would be wild to see it like manifesting from the prairie, but that also means you'd have to take out some of the prairie, or depending.
Yeah.
But it would look really fun to.
That would be a nice background.
Rising from
Yeah.
the prairie.
Okay, that seems like a nice option.
So kind of north end of Scott Park, we're saying,
Yeah.
near the prairie. Okay. Okay.
And then Fair Meadows, are we striking it or just saying it could be part of the bus stop thing?
I would say part of the bus stop.
Okay.
So
So
that
we'd
would be
strike
that
it from the
southeast
list.
corner that,
But if it was part of the bus stop program, it wouldn't be listed separately.
oh, I see, okay. Okay.
So then the next one, American Legion Road, Scott Boulevard Roundabout. Should we leave that one on there just to leave one roundabout to see how the public feels about it?
Sure.
Danger. It's right
I'm
by
just gonna ride off
Legacy
the road.
Point. That's right by Legacy Point too, with a lot of elderly folks driving around about.
Yeah.
I want to go with the ACT one.
Oh, Did that
Just saying.
rank? I guess that was a little
well,
But
over.
isn't that close to Oak Knoll East or
Yeah,
something?
yeah,
So
it's true. You can't.
Unless
both.
you think
both.
the retirement community would enjoy looking at it
true.
from their windows.
My mother-in-law lives there. Be careful. Okay. I just thought there was a really good point about roundabouts, but yeah, I suppose if people like it, we can.
We would have to just, I think,
I would like to rescind my vote for that.
I mean, what you were saying, sort of in jest, but like, if the sculpture was simple
Right.
and like
That
not,
it has to be sort of easily understood, so
Yeah.
you can look at it, appreciate it. But then, I mean, there is the serious. You don't want anybody looking at it too long, but then I also have the fear of like,
but
again,
even-
if you put something lovely and you can't walk up to it, I also kind of wonder, so.
even simple things you kind of want to stare at for a little while.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, as long as it would be simple, but I'm also like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It still feels awfully dangerous and wild, but maybe, so I would roll with it is what I'm saying. Like, sure, put it on the list.
See how it
I
ranks.
personally am not going to get upset by it.
Okay, we'll see how it ranks.
This could be a really hot thing and
public
people
thinks
want
about
the
it.
art roundabout.
What's that?
It would be interesting to see how the public thinks about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, and
Okay.
then Pepperwood, I still kind of want to give that an option, but
Well, I mean, I think like something shade at Pepperwood Plaza would be very different than like something on the trail and highway. Like to me, they're close, but
But I think you could sort of, depending, I remember on one of our past surveys, we've had, something called functional art. So then the question would be,
Pepperwood.
that is very different than something that might be along the trail versus in the plaza. And, if functional art, that could,
Is
I just said that in the sense that they almost feel like two different locations. So like I'm
Sure.
happy including both,
yeah.
like functional art at Pepperwood Plaza, and then a separate proposal would be like the Highway 6 trail.
Sure.
Yeah, I like both, but is the Pepperwood Plaza one feasible with it being not public property, or is there?
What I was going to say, it's not public property.
It's,
The trail location would be, right? But
and I think the SMID down there is trying to work with the private property owners for some sort of event structure that would
Yeah.
include the shade. Yeah.
So maybe we just do the trail one for now, and
So the Highway 6 trail near Pepperwood.
Yes.
that also sort of gives that space time to kind of move into seeing it more vibrant. I think that space is almost complete for having multiple vendors in the former Slumberland. So,
Yeah.
maybe just waiting would give it,
yeah, give the SMID some time to get their feet under them.
yeah, and just kind of start seeing and observing how that space will now start behaving in a way, you know.
Makes sense. Okay, so just the Highway 6 trail.
And there, versus the green space just north of the Casey's. So this area, but not this area, right?
We could leave it kind of open for now.
Yeah, kind of open.
Okay.
Somewhere along there. Because even if you go farther east, it looks like the property line, like maybe it could be kind of where the trail dips back into, sorry, not that much farther, just
Oh,
to the
okay.
slightly east of Casey's, where that green space is. Yeah, like right there. Sort of,
Eventually, the trail would be planned to go along Highway 6, so we just would want to make sure that we're not.
oh, it is planned
Yeah,
to
yeah.
keep going along the
Yeah,
south side of
yeah,
it.
so eventually that connection back to Hollywood Boulevard would be just a side
away.
trail.
Side trail.
The main line would go along Highway 6.
What is that? Do you know is the trail that crosses at Broadway pretty active? Like, does that get a lot of use?
I think so.
I would guess too, because you kind of go up to southeast
Sure.
from that. That'd be how you sneak through from that neighborhood. Yeah, I like finding a spot in there for art.
Yeah.
All right, parking garages. We haven't talked about that at all.
Let me go back to those other trail locations that we talked about, that we don't have on here yet. That would be the Iowa River Trail near the animal shelter. Court Hill, we talked about Court Hill, but also McPherson. Those are the two that haven't appeared on our list yet that we talked about quite a bit. Do you want to put on the one near animal shelter and the trail?
Yeah.
Sure.
And then also McPherson viewable from Muscatine? Okay. Okay.
Okay, that's 7. We have parking garages, Hunter's Ridge Park.
Hunters Run Park is next,
sorry.
and that's on the far west side, so that might be good just to have some diversity in locations. Putting a new playground in there this next summer.
Okay.
I would say we stop there. That's probably.
Is that the one right along 218?
Yep.
But there's a berm, you can't see it from 218.
Right.
So 8. So not Terry Trueblood open space or parking garages, that would be 9, 10.
Corners.
I feel like we're giving them a lot of choices and maybe
So top 8.
a bit more.
Okay.
That's probably good.
Yeah.
We also just did a huge parking garage project, so.
Yeah,
True,
we
true.
do.
That's true.
Okay. Good. I've got 8.
They're pretty big.
Got our next 8 years planned out. That was productive.
We'll keep these minutes handy. Yeah.
I'll motion to approve Wendy's list of 8 locations
I second.
To put out for public survey.
to put out for public survey.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Good discussion.
That was good.
All right. That was the main item on the agenda, but Wendy, you want to take us through the staff updates?
Yeah, sure. Let's see here. Wanted to inform you about Irving here.
Yeah,
That first weekend in November, he was spray painted with some, it looks like construction type spray paint. So I called Steve Maxon, the sculptor, for this, and he came up and repaired Irving within
Wow.
3-4 days. Yeah,
Yeah.
did a great job, and he re-waxed Irving as well, so that future removal, at least in the next couple of years, if there's any spraying, will be a
Nice.
lot easier.
Awesome.
Yeah, and he only charges $236
All
to do
right.
it, so yay.
Sweet.
Irving has been kind to me, and he was actually holding one of my scarves one time. So I was like, "Oh, Irving, thank you for giving it back."
You like lost it and it just happened to be.
Well, I didn't even know. I think it was in like the springtime, right? Like it's cool in the morning, and then I had totally forgotten about it. I was like, "Oh my God, there's my scarf on Irving."
That's awesome.
All right, I'll reclaim it. All right.
Nice.
So, Irving is kind to me. I like him there.
The airport mural project, for that, we received 24 applications for artists to do that. They were from all over the country.
Oh, cool.
A lot from around here in the Midwest, several from Iowa City area. And that list went to a subcommittee of the Airport Commission Tuesday night. Jeremy and I both partook in that. The list was narrowed down to 6, whom the Airport Commission will then narrow down to 3. They have their meeting next Thursday, a week from now. And those 3 then will be offered a $500 stipend to further develop a concept that will then be presented to the next Airport Commission meeting, and then they'll choose the artist that they want to go forward with. So we got some great applications on that. It's really, I don't know
Great.
what if you have anything to add to that, Jeremy, but I was impressed with the quality.
It was tough to narrow it down.
Yeah, it was good.
Are those able to be shared?
Oh, I should have brought them in. I don't have them accessible from this computer.
No problem.
maybe I'll put them in a file that I can send you a link to, and then you can go through. How about that?
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
I feel like it took so long, and then it was like, oh wow, there are 24.
Yeah.
Woo, I know. So
Yeah, it was a great
Lots of
response.
excitement.
Really exciting. On the South District Bench project, as you recall, we selected an artist mentor for that, Ray Michaels. We've been having a hard time getting a meeting with Ray to finalize the agreement that we have with him and start the writing of the RFQ process. Jeremy, are you friends with him? Is that, okay. So hopefully with Jeremy's help, we can get that off the ground and going. More to come. The Black Hawk Mini Park project, this is interesting. I had reported the last couple times that Dawson, Davenport hadn't responded to emails, and then I got an email from a woman who was his, I can't remember what she termed it, I think religious consultant, to let us know that he had been incarcerated and was hoping to be able to be out in January when he has a trial. So she relayed that he wanted us to make sure that we knew that he wanted to continue this project and was extremely apologetic for this bump in the road, but at least we know now why we haven't heard from him. I did consult with the city manager about whether or not, if he had any further advice on this, and he said, let's just wait till we find out what happens at the trial, and then we could move forward from there, but that is that. Yeah, always something. Anyway, that was all I was going to report on this time, unless anybody has questions or needs to know anything.
Can you remind us of the time frame on the airport mural?
Yes, I wish I would have brought this stuff in. So the commission, I think it's at their January meeting, will see the 3 further developed concepts. Then those, then they'll begin to move forward with continue moving forward with their fundraising, so that by May, when good weather is here, the artists should be able to begin work on the project, and with the idea that it'll be in place by September. I can't remember if it was the 1st or the 30th, but I think we want to give them most of the summer to complete it if they need it, so.
Awesome. Any other staff updates, Julie or Ron? No? Okay. Anything else? I think that's it.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.